Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. How are we doing today?
Right.
Fantastic.
I'm not convinced. Let me hear it again.
Great.
That's more like it. I hereby call this meeting of Lakeberry Toastmasters Club 42. Before we begin, please silence your cell phones and trade off your manuals if you haven't done so already.
Hey, Ernst behind you.
Thank you, Ernst.
Oh.
And as I was getting fixed, I would like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All of I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning environment in which members feel empowered to become better public speakers by developing the topic communication and leadership skills. Today's, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our Toastmaster for the day, Macarena T.
Hello,
Toastmasters and guests. Before we get started, we do have a role to fill in. Stacy did call in sick last night. Would anybody be willing to fill in the role of Table Topics Master for this morning?
Done.
Yes.
Let's say you don't have to answer one, right?
I
didn't get my hand up quick enough, I see.
Thank you, Mike, for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay.
So who can forget the age-old phrase, what do you want to be when you grow up? Take a moment and remember what you would have said at the age of 6 or 7. Do you remember dreaming about it or drawing pictures about it? A firefighter, a nurse, a paleontologist, Spider-Man?
Oh.
How about one day being a timer, an off counter, or a grammarian? Toastmasters International meeting. With that, let's now turn to our technical table. Let us start with our off counter for the day.
No, this is okay.
I can't find the board.
It's right
Hadi, how long you
You can wing it.
I'll make it.
It's an ice.
It's on there.
It's on the paper, Hadi.
Alright, thank you. Alright, cool.
Hadi.
Okay, as I counter is my function to listen for the use of filler words, such as you know, so, okay, and other audible pauses as fillers. I will be noting if members perform any double clutches, which means to say things twice, such as this means, this means. Finally, I'll include things which might be distracting, such as Mike. I'll present myself.
That's all I got today. Couple topics, here we go.
Goes around, comes around, Hadi.
Thank you, Hadi. Next we'll do our grammarian, Martin Bell.
Hey!
As grammarian, it is my function to select a word of the day to help build members' vocabularies. Each member, when called upon to speak, is encouraged to use the word of the day. Other members may gently rap on the table when they hear a member use a word. Essentialism. That's a good word. The word of the day is essentialism. And it's a word that I got from reading a best-selling book by Greg McCown, of which I have become an essentialist, pursuing this in a disciplined manner, less, because there's just too much in today's world. It's a mindset of focusing time, energy, and effort on the one thing, or those things that make the highest contribution to what really matters in life. During the evaluation portion of the meeting, I will present my report. Thank you.
All right.
Our timer, Carrie.
All right, Carrie!
Our function is to time the speakers, evaluators, and tabletop participants to ensure they meet timing requirements. Our speeches today, one is 5 to 7 minutes, so it's 5, 6, and 7. Our 10 to 15 minute speeches are going to be 10, 12 and a half, and 15. And table topics is 30, 45, and 60 seconds. I'll give my report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, so we do have a very full day today, so let's go ahead and get started. Speaking from our Competent Communication Manual number 4, How to Say It, please help me welcome Marty Simon in Out of Context.
No, that's really lovely. I appreciate it. So I get these dramatic movements. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
I received a meeting request the other day. We have a beautiful subject line in our meeting request, don't we? That we all have. And it had one word. It had the word training. That was it. My title is Director of Training. Did I have any concept, oh, there's that word, of what they wanted to talk about in that meeting for 1 hour? That would be no, for those playing at home. Because, what did you want to talk about? Did you want to train on application, soft skills? Did you want to talk about adult learning theory? Did you want to just talk about training in general of the entire staff? What did you want to talk about? I had no idea. So let's talk about the actual word, the essentialism of the word, context. Context is, in fact, a noun. Did everyone know that? Because sometimes you think, well, it's describing things, so it's got words to it, so it must be an adjective or something about it. It's a noun. And it means the words that go with a certain word or phrase to help explain its meaning. Repeat after me. Words that go with a certain word or phrase to help explain its what, ladies and gentlemen? Meaning. So without that, one is left so unprepared for meetings, for understanding things, for being able to actually communicate. And it is beholden on the communicator to be able to explain what they're talking about. So Ernst, do you have an hour later on, maybe even later this week? I'd really like to talk to you about real estate.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's good. I don't need to tell you anymore.
No.
Real estate. So, you don't care what I want to talk about?
No, it's all about relationship building.
It could be.
Touche.
But I'm going to give him. Thank you for playing along. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I didn't give him anything to go on, did I? What do I want to talk about? Do I want to talk about short sales? Do I want to talk about maybe hiring a buyer's agent? What do I want to talk about? He doesn't know. He signed up for an hour for me to talk about real estate when he really doesn't know what he's agreed to. But he was kind enough to do that because he's a kind person and he's trying to sabotage me here. That's all right. Thinking on my feet a little bit. I also want to help you maybe understand how that plays out, there is a pun in there, with plays, movies, books even. There's another word for context, it's called exposition. I'm not trying to give you the $4 word, but exposition is the same thing. When we tell a story, we can give too much background, too little background, and maybe not know what's going on in the story, or have a mountain of useless information to go along with whatever's happening in the story. We're all watching. How's she gonna fit?
Out of context.
Out of context. Speaking of, this man is just setting me up today. We have the word context, but we have my title. Out of context? With a question mark? Because somehow or another we have run out of context. It is a commodity in the English language, apparently, because we don't want to add 3 more words in that subject line, which would have helped me. Application training for clinicians. Wow, that would have really helped me out for that meeting. 3 additional words. She kept the word training in there, and I'd have been fine, because I do training. So what happens? What do we do? How can we do better with context? How do we keep things in context instead of out of context? I hate to bring this up, but politics is among us and upon us right now. And that is the optimal time for things to be taken out of context. This is in no way an endorsement or defense of anything about Donald Trump, who I apparently bring up every time I stand here. He gave a wonderful speech about, he won the Hispanics. I love the Hispanics. I won all the highly educated. I love the highly educated. I won the poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. Well, what came out the next day in the headline of CNN and Marco Rubio's ads? I love the poorly educated. Taken out of context. So if you use the meaning of the word context, words that help to describe certain words or phrases that help its meaning. So if you take away those words that help its meaning and just put that out on its own on a headline, it can be taken out of context. We're lost when we're out of context. In 2 regards, we don't know where that's coming from, and we have run out of context. Don't be greedy. Don't be stingy. Be just right with your words. Thank you very much. I enjoyed my time here. God bless.
Thank you, Marty. We have 1 minute on the clock.
Yeah, I know. Let me go on back.
When we become adults, we seem to give up far too easily on our childhood dreams because they may seem to be a little bit unrealistic. Some dreams, for instance, can be too expensive, such as a doctor or a lawyer. We also become affected by life experiences. For instance, my mother was a teacher. I, too, wanted to be a teacher. A couple of years later, fast forward, knowledge seeped in. I began to see her coming home with tons of work, an outrageous amount of homework to grade, and she wasn't getting paid. She is by far the most amazing teacher and now vice principal that I know today. Do I want to be a teacher? No. Our next speaker, which would be Gus, is speaking from the Toastmaster International's The Better Speaking Series in Advanced Communication track. The Better Speaking Series is a set of presentations offering instruction on basic speaking skills. Designed to be delivered by members to their clubs, presentations in this series provide new speaking techniques and facts that can help all club members develop their communication skills. In the Better Speaking Series, project number 7 is Organizing Your Speech. Organizing Your Speech offers several strategies for planning an effective presentation. Gus is working on the requirements for the Advanced Communication Silver. This is the second of 2 presentations he will conduct from the Better Speaker Series. In addition to 10 other speeches completed from 2 different manuals from the communication track. Please join me to welcome Toastmaster Gus in his speech titled A Refugee's Journey.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, this is the second of these speeches that I've tried to do with visual aids. I think I will start to confess that probably my technical abilities are very limited because where I work, I'll go back and tell them to spoil us. If it comes up, I'll be able to fit in exactly what I'll be talking about. If it doesn't, each one of you are going to be fully engaged and fully participating. Every speech we give is not just a talk. Every speech we give has to be organized. It has to have a flow. There has to be a development plan, an outline, and an opening, which is the same as a body, and then the close. Every speech has to have that. And then you have a way you put it together. I will give you the components that needs to be part of a speech, and then I will give you a very brief speech to be able to demonstrate that. And one of the, I became a teacher, not like your mom, it's always to have a plan, is please take 2 of these cards and pass it out. And as my able friend is trying to get us going here, Stephen Morgan, let me tell you what are the things that when you want to put a speech together that you should start off. The organizing method, whatever you have on the first card there, the organizing method of every speech is this. This is the Toastmaster or any organizational speech mantra. Any speech you have to give, the first thing is, 1, tell them what you're going to tell them, all right? If you want to write that on your paper there, tell them what you are going to tell them. I am going to tell you this morning how to organize a speech. I'm also going to tell you a speech that will model that. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then the second one will be tell them. I will tell you what are the components of that speech. And finally, I will tell you what I have already told you, all right? So the 3 components of a speech: tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you want to tell them, and in your closing, you tell them what you have told them. Now, how do you develop an outline? The first thing you always need to do, I want to encourage those of you who are just Toastmasters now connecting, get this. The first thing you have to do is to develop an outline. I remember in my early days when I learned from the pros in the room, they tell me about develop an outline. Think with me for a moment, what would be in that outline? 3 things have to be in the outline. In the outline, you have an introduction, that is, tell them what you're going to tell them. Then you have a body, you tell them what you just say you're going to tell them. And then you have a conclusion. Right? We get that. So tell them what you're going to tell them what you've told them, and tell them what you just said. In the introduction, what do you do in the introduction? In the introduction, as I said the last time, that is where you have to quickly announce the topic, what you're going to talk about in the introduction. Announce the topic you want to talk about in your introduction quickly. Get the attention of the audience in the introduction. Something may distract you, but try to stay focused as the speaker in the introduction. You tell them what you're going to tell them, and in that case, they will know the topic. And if it's possible, you could tell them a story. And I will do that when I get to the brief, the refugees' journey. The next after the introduction is the body that you're going to talk about. What is the main subject? What is the main idea you're going to talk about? Have some main points in that subject. Create the main points. In my speech shortly, I'm going to give you what are the main points about the journey of the refugees. Every main point you have in the body provide supporting materials, right? So you have the body, you have the main points, and provide supporting materials. What could these supporting materials be? Some of those supporting materials would be statistics. You want to give them some facts. You could give them some findings you found out about the subject. You could just something that will verify what you are talking about. All right? Speakers, introduction, the body, the main idea, the supporting materials, and the third area will be the conclusion, where you will have to land the plane. Remember when I talked the last time, I mentioned that it's like my friends who are pilots tell me the takeoff of the plane is the most important time. It's loaded with people, with fuel, and all of these, and it's going to taxi down the runway, probably going 170 miles per hour, and it's going to take off, lift up, and go. So your introduction is that powerful at the takeoff, where you get the attention, you say your topic, and a story or a code. Then your body will be, you start to break down. The main idea, the supporting, and then your conclusion is when you're going to land. None of us want to be in a plane that you know you've arrived at Baltimore BWI, but the plane is not landing, right? That would be quite good point. So that's the first thing you have to get. Now you want to take time as a Toastmaster at home, you want to work on your outline. So the next main heading I want you to write about, how do you create the outline, which is very important to follow. In your outline, list key points. I'm going to give you the key points shortly in the refugee speaking. List the key points. I want to talk about, I'm going to be telling you 4 key points about refugees' journey. 4 key points. And I've arranged them in order. So your key points, arrange them in order. You can expand on those points if possible. And the expansion of the points would be a way that you continue to get the attention of the audience, whether you're giving them facts or figures or stories that will keep their attention. And then in your outline again, you have to be able to show where it comes to the end. Let me tell you the story of refugees. The refugees' journey is what I'm going to tell you about this morning, the refugees' journey, and I'm going to tell you how they get here. Do you know right now, in about 5 minutes, the population of the United States will increase by 13 people. Yes, the population of the United States will increase by 13 refugees who are going to be resettled in the United States. They're coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo. We've just been working with them for the last week, and it is an intense problem that we took upon ourselves, but we're going to solve this solution. Let me tell you what is the journey of the refugee. What is the journey of the refugee? There are 4 points in the journey of a refugee. The first point of the journey of a refugee is trying to flee the decision. Number 1, the decision to flee from their country. That is the first thing in the journey. How do people become a refugee? A refugee is someone who has been forced out of a situation, maybe it's due to persecution. It could be political persecution, it could be religious persecution, it could be ethnic persecution. So get in your mind all of these places you've heard about wars. You think about in Asia, you think about in Africa. This particular case is Congo. You think about Rwanda. All of these people that flee from their country and go to another country. What makes them to start to think about the decision to flee? Their lives are not safe, so they need to get out. The resources are not available. They don't have food, water, clothing, shelter, and medicine. So they are going to try to flee out of their country. So these folks we're talking about who are arriving right now, the plane is going to land, they fled from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Tanzania. And they've been in Tanzania for 19 years. That is where they've been at refugee. And these 13 people, mom and dad, and the rest are children. The oldest child is 22, and the youngest is 2 months. So everything in between, they've been born in a refugee camp. So they have decided, they made the decision that they will flee out of their country. UNHCR says there are about 19 million people in the world who are refugees. And these 13 people who are landing in Miami and will be in Orlando at 8:45 today are part of that millions of people. So the first decision the refugees make is, one, they decide to leave the country, and the decision to flee, and then leaving the country. How do they leave the country? They are refugees. They don't have the skills, the tools, the resources. UNHCR puts a process in place. You can only become a refugee to the United States if you go through an application, a vetting process, and all the screening. It's a ton of work they do to get them. So that's when they will decide we're going to leave. They don't have the money, but they're going, the UNHCR is going to get them here. We're working with the Lutheran Family Services to get them here. So that's the second thing they do. They decide to leave. But then the third is there's always a waiting process. They've been waiting in Tanzania in this refugee camp for probably the last 6 years when their paperwork started. And we don't get the notification less than 10 days is when we get the notification. So in the process of a refugee, they decide to flee, and second, they have to be ready to leave their homeland. Third, there's a waiting process. All these things are put in place. Paperwork. Between Wednesday and yesterday, we have piles of paperwork we have to wade through to be able to verify and what we can do and all of that. And then the fourth and final stage of a refugee is the resettlement. Imagine you've been in a refugee camp and you're going to be resettled in the United States. I've spent half of my life in the United States. I still don't get some stuff. You guys have probably know that, right? Half of my life I've been in the United States. So imagine when they arrive today. They're going to arrive at, I think it's 7:45 at the airport. We have a team of about 17 people with different expertise working with them. So that resettlement involves doing the following. These are the following things that we have to do for their resettlement. We have to find housing. Imagine you're coming from a refugee camp. Have you all seen that movie? Just drew a blank there. The movie, The Good Lie. L-I-E. How many of you seen The Good Lie? So imagine that movie, The Good Lie. These people just coming with their bag off the plane, and they're going to come to Orlando. Your MCO, Mickey Corporate Headquarters. You know. They're going to be arriving here, and what is going to be the essentialism of the work that we have to provide for these people? We're going to, tomorrow morning, they're actually going to stay in one of the hotels around here in Lake Mary, because this is spring break. It was hard to find housing for 13 people. So they're going to be here, and then we're going to start to do their medical work at the Seminole County Public Health. We're going to get them Social Security numbers, and we're going to try to get them clothing, food, and all the works, the things you take for granted. One of the refugees, they've been briefing us what to do well. They never knew how to flip that light and turn the switch on. They had an oven because they live in a refugee camp. They didn't know you heat it up and put the food in and take it out. So when they even taught them, you put it in there, you hit it and take it out, they did not know about what you use with your hands when you want to take it. Okay, there you go. So this is the life of the refugee resettling in the United States. It's going to be a tremendous next 120 days we have the responsibility. I have just told you about the journey of the refugee from the time they decide to leave the camp, to flee, to the time they keep moving along to come to the United States, the waiting period and the settlement. That is just a broad scope of the life of a refugee. Fellow Toastmasters, when you are doing a speech, tell the audience what you're going to tell them about organizing the speech. And then secondly, tell them what you need to tell them, and then in the end, you told them what you told them. That will help you to put your speech together. An introduction, you have a body that has a breakdown, and then you're also going to have the conclusion. Madam Toastmaster.
Even now as adults, it's important to remember that dreaming is not over.
Nicely done.
We still dream of what we want to be when we grow up. For example, buy that dream car you've always wanted. How about sailing away to the Caribbean, where the only thing we have to worry about is when to reapply the sunblock? Whatever the dream may be, nobody said that you couldn't do it while still wearing your Spider-Man costume. Go save the world, little dreamers. Our next speaker, Alexandra. What is the Better Speaker Series? The Better Speaker Series are models designed as 10 to 15 minute educational speeches to be given in the club. They give practical tips that can be of benefit to all members. Besides the educational portion, they also fulfill the Advanced Communicator Silver level requirements. The complete set of the Better Speaker Series modules includes beginning your speech, concluding your speech, controlling your fear, impromptu speaking, know your audience, organize your speech, creating an introduction, preparation and practice, use body language, and selecting your topic. This morning, Alexandra will give a 10 to 15 minute presentation about selecting your topic. Please help me welcome Advanced Communicator Bronze, Alexandra Balda, presenting Selecting Your Topic.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, your Madam Toastmaster. This morning, I'm going to talk, this is an educational session, and I'm going to be talking about selecting your topic. Selecting your topic for a speech could be overwhelming. Who is with me? Who is with me? Raise your hand. Every time that you need to speak, selecting your topic is taking the most amount of time that writing the speech. It is overwhelming. This morning, don't worry about it, we are going to learn the essentialisms of how to select a topic. Because if you look around you, we are surrounded by ideas on what to talk about it. There are two main sources where to find topics. Who do you think is the first source?
Yourself, wow.
Alexandra. Yes.
For yourself. Yourself, you, everybody here in this room is a bag full of ideas. With topics that you can talk about. What do you like to play? Any sports? Or your kids or your significant others? Have you ever been to a sport or any game? That's a topic that you can talk. About the first time you wear contact glasses. What happened? Tell us about it. Family trips?
Ooh, what is that?
Where did you get married? Where did you went into your honeymoon? Where did you spend, your last vacation with your family? That's another topic. Trophies, medals that you won or your kids won. Tell us about it. That's an amazing topic. Sweet 16s or quinceañeras, if you're not in that trend, that's another great topic. It's endless. Let's think for a second that I don't have anything to talk about myself. I'm running out of ideas. This is overwhelming. Guess what? The second source to find topics is books, the internet. So everything is at the reach of your fingerprints. Go to the internet and find topics that you want to talk about. This morning, we are going to learn, besides finding the topics, and again, the two sources are you or websites and books. But after you realize and say, okay, this is the topic that I want to talk about, now we are going to narrow that into 4 areas. The first one is, after you select the topic, is know your audience. Who are you going to present this topic? Myself, I'm a Dr. Sue lover, and maybe, thank you so much for your patience for bringing that material, even though that was not the audience. I am aware of that. But this is a good example. Be aware of the audience where you are going to be presenting your speech. Number 2, the occasion. Imagine that you have this very fun speech and you need to present it in a funeral. It doesn't make sense. It's not matching. Or you have this sad speech of a sad experience and you're going to present in a bachelor party. No, it doesn't match. So know the occasion where you are going to be presenting your speech. Number 3, know your own abilities. If you're going to be presenting a speech, for example, in a medical expo or conference, and you are going to be presenting a research in cancer, that makes you an expert. So make sure you know your abilities when you are going to deliver a speech, where this is going to be delivered. So I guess, know your own abilities and the knowledge that you have about the subject. And number 4, be specific. And this is something that Gus touched very well. So once you identify the subject, now you are going to make like 3 points that are going to be supporting the subject that you are going to be talking about. And remember, always like the rule of 3. So that's make sure those 3 points are feeding from the title and they are related. So if you think about it, topics are all around us. I bet that if I ask someone here as a table topic just to test, tell me something that happened to you this morning while you were driving to Toastmaster. You have a story. I'm sure you have something to share with me and with the whole crowd. I don't know you, my best times when I kind of start getting my topics when I'm driving. Have you been there, like driving in I-4, stuck in traffic, and you start, your mind is wandering, oh, this could be a good time, and then always have a pen. Have a pen with you, right? Doesn't matter if you don't have paper. I don't have paper. Napkins are my best friends. I'm in my car. Driving. Oh, it would be a good topic for my next speech. I grab a napkin and start writing or something. And if you don't have napkins, use your arm. Or use whatever, your leg. Just write something, and then when you get home, you get your book. And I think I learned this from Stephany. She gets sticky pads, and she put whatever she wants to talk about, and she put on the project. Doesn't matter if it's not in order. You just attach that to any project, any books. Is that right? So to close, I'm going to say that keep in mind, topics are all around you. It's no reason to be stressed about it. Just think about yourself. Your main source is you. Your second main source are websites and books. And remember, be specific. Know your own abilities. The occasion. And last but not least, know your audience. Madam Toastmaster. A minute.
Congratulations and a thank you to all three speakers who spoke today. Our next portion of the meeting is our table topics. Please help me welcome our table topics master for this morning, Mr. Marty.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We thought we'd get away from this, but you didn't. So today you're mine. So I'm going to kick this off with a little bit of little brother, little sister feeling. When growing up, we all had brothers and sisters that pester you. If Hadi was your little brother, what would you tell him, Steve?
Mr. Table Topics Master, I do have two younger sisters. One's a couple years younger, the other one's nearly 7 years younger. The escapades that we had to deal with those, since my youngest sister is still older than Hadi. The interesting thing is, with a 7-year difference, we don't have a whole lot in common. As for me and Hadi here, well, okay, we both have glasses. And we both tend to talk way too far above people if we're not paying attention to what we're thinking. But apparently they like to poke fun back and forth, especially to Mike. Not because he doesn't deserve it, but he does. But he asks for it at every opportunity not to pass up. It's kind of interesting that he decides to pick up Table Topics Master today because, of course, he didn't want to have to answer a table topic. At which point, Hadi decides he's going to go poke the bear. So I think what would be much more fair in this situation would be to let Hadi ask Mike the next table topic. What do you think?
Speaking in context. Describe a time in your life that you took something out of context and it was rather an embarrassing moment. Julie.
Oh my God.
Which one?
Too many.
Off the hook.
That was great. Right.
I just asked James this morning, who are these people? Let's see, let me check off. Mike.
Yes.
Mike and I sat next to each other, by the way, next together. That's out of context, isn't it? Last week, and I somehow knew when he walked up there, today was my first day. Thank you very much, Mike, for not
He's all heart.
So, out of context, I walked in here the first time to a Toastmasters meeting. I was definitely out of context, but I was so warmly welcomed, so graciously engaged, and had folks come up that I had never even known that looked really happy to be here. I thought there must be something really cool about this place. So I came in thinking, oh, these people are all such experts and I don't know anything, and they've been here for years, and you all came at me with this open, welcoming effort. Like, we were new too once. So I came in out of context as a member, and here I am today as a member. So thank you.
Now, when developing your speeches, what do you find to be the hardest part, James?
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, table Toastmasters, for asking me such an easy question. Because today is the day of education and learning, and man, you made it so easy. Finding a topic. Thank you, Alexandra. It is the absolute hardest thing to do. I can remember years ago, they used to have a contest where they would tell you, it would give you 2 subjects and tell you what you had to talk about. That was so easy. That's the hard part. Once you got a topic, bingo. Bang, bang, bang. Tell. Thank you.
I got one more.
Oh, wow, he's going.
If you had the opportunity to help a refugee from any country, where would you go and why? Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. That is a good one. If I could help a refugee from any country and why, where would I go? Thailand. The reason I say Thailand, never mind. It's okay. No, it's actually a little bit of different background that my dad, he went on over on a mission trip in Thailand, and while he was there, he got shot at. A couple of other things that went on through there. But everyone whom I met that was a refugee from Asia or just any part of that region had such a gracious attitude when they came into the United States, such as many refugees when they do. And it's just inspiring to see someone chasing after the American dream, especially with such a strong collective culture. They want to bring their family, want to have that communal bond, and I love seeing more of that in Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Love it. It's time for the evaluation portion of the meeting. Please help me welcome our general evaluator, Dana Mitchell.
Sam, I thought you were going to say Alabama. In the spirit of essentialism, we're going to get right to our evaluation. And the first person is the one and only Rich Massa, who will be taking care of Marty.
Oh yeah. Marty, we'll take this out of context, but we got to rush through this thing. Okay, so how to say it. General evaluator, especially Marty. Let's just get through this thing here. Was your topic appropriate for the assignment? Yes. Let me just get through what I loved about it. I loved your interaction with Ernst. I loved the power of 3. I love how you tied in humor to the speech. It really engaged the audience. I love the interaction with the audience. Not only did you use Ernst, but you also used the audience. You asked questions. You were very interactive. It made it very engaging. What I would say we could make it more effective is pause in the beginning to bring the audience in and make your topic clear in the beginning. It took me about 30 seconds to understand what the topic of the conversation was going to be. For instance, if you want to ask a question in the beginning, have you ever gotten an email that said this and will automatically be engaged? and then maybe a stronger closing, like don't take this out of context and maybe either insult the crowd or insult yourself with some self-deprecating humor. That's my evaluation, Mr. Evaluator. Thank you very much.
And for our second one, Ernst will be taking care of the evaluation for Mr. Gus Davies.
Happy Super Tuesday morning.
All right.
Essentialism is being challenged in many different ways today. Good morning, Mr. General Evaluator, Ms. Toastmaster, fellow members, and honored guests, and especially Gus. Gus was speaking from the Better Communication Manual. Organizing your speech, his subject was a refugee's journey. This was a very interesting approach because at first I was prepared for the speech to be the whole journey, but it was educational in the beginning, and then he explained the journey. The journey certainly was very educational, it was captivating and very interesting indeed. Gus started coming up to this lectern here, and I would have expected him to be, since he's an authority on this, to have a little bit more smile on his face and give a strong handshake instead of coming kind of, and then when he went, I would have liked to see him a little bit more confident than he actually was, a little bit more smiling. The basic hallmarks of a great speaker are, of course, body language, interjecting pauses, organize your speech, get to the point, vocal variety, research your topic, persuade, empower, inspire the audience. I must say, Gus used each and every one of these techniques in his 15 minutes or 13 minutes, whatever, presentation. The Speaker 7 manual requires to meet the following standards, and Gus already explained that before. The first 2 minutes of the speech must be compelling enough that the audience is eager to hear more. And he explained population today, is it today or the next 5 minutes, or 1 minute, will increase by 13 people. Because I know our growth is much faster than that. I know our debt is, but our growth. And then he explained the decision to flee their country, why people do flee their country, political persecution, life is not easy in their country, and they're seeking shelter in another country. And it also explained people leaving one country in the main body of the sun, fleeing from Congo to Tanzania in the main body. Some stay there for 19 years. Some were born in Tanzania, even though they're from Congo. And then how do they leave the country? The Americans go over there, give them the proper visas and vet them, etc., and they arrive here at MCO. I didn't know MCO stands for Mickey Mouse. MCO. In the conclusion, you're supposed to do a recap of what you have said. And he basically explained what the conclusion is supposed to be, recapping your speech. However, he didn't recap his speech. He explained that you're supposed to do that. He should have pointed out what he has said in his speech, such as why people flee, blah, blah, blah. So remember what the speech was all about. I believe Gus basically met all the requirements. The only improvement I can suggest, Gus was wearing an outfit, polished shoes, well combed. Maybe, just maybe, he could have dressed a little bit down like a refugee. Kind of like looking exhausted.
Wrap it up.
Going on a diet instead of looking like coming from GQ.
Now we know essentialism.
What the hell?
So next is our Stephany Bird. She will be evaluating Alexandra, Balda, and go for it, girl.
With the 45 seconds I've got left. Toastmaster.
and Alexandra. Great fun your speeches are. Very good introduction. You let us know what we're going to hear from you today. Were you prepared? Absolutely. Reliance on notes? Not at all. What did I like? I liked that colorful paper bag with all of the stuff you had going into it. Did you use your visuals and displays smoothly? Absolutely. You not only used the bag and props, you had an easel. Nothing fell off of it. Not lopsided. We could actually read the words from it. Kudos. What could you have done a little better? Because you were kind of racing through it a little bit, slow it down, use more of a variety. You were a bit amped up the whole time. Bring some lows into it. Also, your hand gestures. You have a lot of them. They're mostly a bit out here. Make your hand gestures purposeful. So when you said narrow your topic, narrow your hands. And when you said there are 3 things, you can count off 1, 2, 3, but hold up 3, just don't go. There are 3 things you can do. Make them more deliberate, make them more personal, and not so much out here. Bring them down to your side sometimes. They don't have to move all the time. That way, when you do move, we know something is going to be accentuated, okay? So, let's see what else. This was so very well done. And because you're such an excellent speaker, I do have to dig a little bit more for her. But the thing I liked best was 2 things. You reversed the ordering. Did anyone notice? When she used the paper bag, instead of having the items in the bag and her pulling them out, she had them on the table and she put them into the bag. That gives her the opportunity to spot them ahead of time and know what she's going to say about each and every one instead of potluck, pulling it, oh, what do I have to So I think that was intentional. If it wasn't, it was very smart. The other thing she did was on her props. When she gave us the wrap-up, instead of going back to the first item, it was reversed, so that what are you going to talk about or who your audience is, the strongest point was the last point that she made. Excellent. Very well done. I want to hear some more like that.
That was wonderful, and because it's such a close time, everything was good. A lot going on today. 2 long speeches, and that's the way it goes. But when you come in and it says, please do not touch the screen, and when your computer doesn't work and we still make it through, that means everyone did a wonderful job. Thank you. Oh, these guys, I have to evaluate you? Okay, I thought it was fine. So sorry.
I'm sure Carrie will be going.
Go Carrie.
Carrie Bird, please.
Marty Simon, you had 5 to 7 minutes. It was 6:46. Gus Davies, 10 to 15. 14:42. Alexandra Valda, 10 to 15. 6:53. I was so enthralled with this game that I forgot to sign you. Julie with table topics was 1:06. James 40 seconds. Sam 58 seconds. And our evaluators, Rich was 1:14. Ernst 4:05. And Stephany 2:55.
Thank you very much. All right. And our law counter, Mr. Hadi.
Rock, all right, Maka, 1 double clutch. Marty Simon, 2 Uz. Gus, 6 Uz, 2 double clutches. Alex, 4 Uz, and 3 double clutches. Mike, clean. Steven, clean. Julie, 2 Uz. James, 2 double clutches. Sam, clean. Dana, 1 Rich, 6 Uz and 2 double clutches. Ernst, 2 Uz, and Stephany, 1
Thank you very much. And our grammarian.
Get up for everybody on the word of the day. Marty, Gus, Alex, Dana, and Ernst are folks that use it. If you didn't use them, go read the book. It's fantastic.
Amazing.
Macarena. Go save the world, little dreamer. Marty, I like how you put accents. Communicator. Stop with Taj. Gus, MCO, Mickey's corporate headquarters. Maybe just MCO or Did you say
Offices.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to tell you what I am talking about, and then I'm going to tell you what. Alexandra, we're all a bag full of ideas. Awesome. Quinceañera, anytime you put that in the speech, awesome. Stephen poked the bear, that was good. Julie, we were new to once. James, bang, bang, bang. Sam, so inspiring to see someone chase the American dream. Very nice. Rich, insult the audience or insult yourself. Always good tips. And Ernst, we just like doing this like for 5 minutes.
Like a boat.
All right, Julia.
Time, we're out of time. But we have returning guests, Nene and Tara. What did you think of the meeting today?
It was awesome.
That would have tried to say that.
Stand
up.
2 for 2. All right, line up for next week. We have Mac, Sergeant at Arms, Dana, Toastmaster.
That's me.
That's you. All right, we have 3 speakers, Stacy, Lori, and Mike. We've got Stephen, Table Topics. Phyllis is General Evaluator. James, Marty, and Mac are evaluators. Good. Martin, the all-counter. I'm Marion, and Ernst is the timer. Any other new business? Stephany.
Mentor training next week, next Tuesday. I'm going to try to do it unless you want to do it ahead, early. Who can stay, who's not had mentor training, who needs mentor training or a refresher. Not going to be that long, no more than half an hour, 20 minutes. I'm going to jet through it, okay? So, who you prefer before or after? Who's the Carrie?
I'd rather do before, but.
Anybody else? Who else?
I can do
need
either.
Lori.
She's not here.
I'm good with whatever.
Of course you are.
Okay. You want to meet? We can meet at 7. Yeah, well, 4 to 7.
Sure.
Okay, I'll send you a notice.
All right, I'd like to call Gus up real quick.
Uh-oh.
Because Gus just earned his Advanced Communicator Silver Medal.
Whoa!